In a big twist to the ongoing US-Iran tension, a bloodthirsty terrorist and war criminal wanted by the International Criminal Court, Benjamin Netanyahu, has decided to rush to the US. This has added an interesting dimension to the ongoing talks between Iran and the US. In today's video, I will discuss this in greater detail and also explore the behind-the-scenes story. Also in today's video, I will share the global humiliation of the maligned organization called the International Olympic Committee and the booing of Israeli terrorists and Americans during the inauguration ceremony of the Winter Olympics. So please stay tuned. So war criminal and dreaded terrorist Netanyahu has once again announced his intention to visit the US to meet his poodle, Donald Trump. Going by media reports, this human devil, responsible for slaughtering hundreds of thousands of babies and children in the ongoing Gaza Holocaust, will meet his slave Trump on Wednesday.
Hello again. Some breaking news coming out of the Middle East from the Israeli Prime Minister's office. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, we understand, is expected to meet with US President Donald Trump on Wednesday in Washington to discuss the ongoing negotiations with Iran. The Prime Minister believes that any negotiations must include Iran limiting ballistic missiles and ending support for the Iranian access.
This would be his fifth or sixth meeting with his new American slave at the White House since January last year. Doesn't it show who is running the White House and dictating the American foreign policy on Iran and the wider West Asia? When you pay attention to the chronology of events, it would become abundantly clear to you why this Israeli barbarian has suddenly decided to visit the US once again. As I reported yesterday, the Iranian Foreign Minister, Sayyid Abbas Araghchi, he had described his talks with the US delegation through the Omani mediator as a good start. When I posted the video here, the American reaction hadn't come in. However, in the early hours of Saturday, Trump spoke to media representatives on board Air Force One. Like the Iranian Foreign Minister, Trump too described the talks in Oman as very good.
We likewise had very good talks on Iran. Iran looks like it wants to make a deal very badly. We have to see what that deal is.
And when a media representative asked him about Iran not willing to discuss its ballistic missile program, Trump said he would be quite happy for Iran to just assure that it wouldn't develop nuclear bombs. I'm not making this up. Have a listen to what Trump had to say.
You also had Brad Cooper there, the head of CENTCOM. A deal doesn't look like it's been reached yet. How long are you willing to wait?
A deal can be reached. Well, you have to get in position. We have plenty of time. If you remember Venezuela, we waited around for a while, and we're in no rush. We have, very good talks going with Iran. We have very good talks going with Russia and Ukraine. We're doing a lot of good talking, and I think we had the results today were with Iran. It was a meeting. We're going to meet again early next week. And they want to make a deal. Iran, as they should want to make a deal. They know the consequences if they don't. If they don't make a deal, the consequences are very steep. So we'll see what happens. But they had a very good meeting with a very high representative of Iran, and we'll see how it all turns out.
So we'll give it a ripe scoops.
See that. By the way, I'd love to see that. If we could do that, I'd love to see it.
Mr. President, is a deal that is acceptable that only covers with Iran? Is there a deal that only covers nuclear that would be acceptable to you? Because they just want to have nuclear. They don't want to have anything else.
Like deal that would be acceptable, but the one thing, and right up front, no nuclear weapons.
First of all, the West and the US have been all over the place in their rapidly changing reasons to illegally attack Iran. First, the reason was the human rights issue, since, according to them, Iran had committed a grave sin by launching a crackdown on the unrest created by Mossad and CIA agents. Trump even encouraged Iranians to keep committing treason, adding that help was on its way. That was nearly a month ago. The Iranian security officials since then have managed to take control of the situation. Trump then changed his tune and invented a new reason to justify his future military strikes against Iran. He said that a lot of US warships, including an aircraft carrier, Abraham Lincoln, were heading towards Iran. He warned Iran of severe consequences if it didn't strike a deal with him about the country's nuclear program. The same program that he himself had boasted about completely and totally obliterating last year. Then his minions began to raise objections on Iran's ballistic missile program. Soon it became clear that the US wanted to include Iran's ballistic program and the fate of stockpile of 400 kgs of highly enriched uranium. Iran refused to have these two topics on the agenda yesterday when both sides met in Oman. As for the nuclear weapons, Iran has made it clear that it had no intention to produce nuclear bombs. The body language and his subsequent public speech by Araghchi clearly indicated that Iran wasn't bothered by the US threats at all. After his talks in Oman, Araghchi landed in Qatar, where he was a speaker at an event organized by the Al Jazeera media outlet. Using the opportunity, Araghchi said what I have said from this channel time and again, particularly in the last few weeks. Araghchi said that the US threats of military strikes against Iran were to help terrorist Netanyahu fulfill his long-cherished desire of a greater Israel in the region. Fear of Iran acquiring nuclear weapons or the success of its ballistic missiles would be a great impediment for this Israeli project.
Israel's expansionist project requires that neighboring countries be weakened militarily, technologically, economically, and socially, so that the Israeli regime permanently enjoys the upper hand. Under this project, Israel is free to expand its military arsenal without limits, including weapons of mass destruction that remain outside any inspection regime.
It was quite refreshing to see Araghchi also turn the tables for a change and question why there was no accountability for the rogue settler colony of Israel, despite possessing weapons of mass destruction and also using them to commit genocide in Gaza and in the wider region. I hope Araghchi makes this a condition for future talks. Iran should say, fine, we are happy to end our nuclear program, provided Israel also destroys all its nuclear arsenal and also agrees to regular inspection by the IAEA. This alone would put Trump and his Israeli masters on the defensive. The illegal settler colony of Israel knows that Iran would not let the Greater Israel project become a reality, even if slave Arabs eventually capitulate to their Zionist masters. Iran is capable of giving Israeli terrorists sleepless nights, even without nuclear weapons, as the whole world saw last year. But Trump has said that he would be happy if Iran simply agrees not to develop nuclear weapons. This clearly doesn't follow the Israeli plan. Hence, war criminal Netanyahu's desperation to demand a meeting with Trump, who this terrorist treats nothing more than a slave. I have said it before, and I'll say it again. Trump and his Israeli masters would be fools to underestimate the Iranian military capabilities. When Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warned of a regional war, he wasn't joking. God forbid Trump indeed goes ahead and satisfies his racist and genocidal urge by illegally attacking Iran. We are talking about an Iranian retaliation that the world has never seen before. Even Zionist and pro-Israeli experts say that this would be lethal.
Does that mean it's more deadly? Does that mean we could see airstrikes? And are they going to hold that card and not unless the U.S. does? And if the U.S. does, what would we likely see from Iran?
You know, this regime is weak, but it is also quite lethal at the same time. It has the capability to threaten U.S. bases in the Persian Gulf. It has the capability to threaten maritime shipping and commercial traffic in the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz. And it's highly likely that those would be two areas or threats that it would turn on that we haven't seen before.
I will leave you with a clip of the inauguration ceremony of this year's Winter Olympics. While the disgraced IOC is happy to ban Russia from participating in such events, it has absolutely no problem in Israeli terrorists taking part in the competition. Mind you, some of those taking part in this year's Winter Olympics were responsible, directly responsible, for killing journalists and blowing up hospitals, mosques, and churches in Gaza. While the IOC can act in a disgraceful manner with its glaring double standards, people present in the stadium did everything in their capacity to register their disgust for Israelis and also Americans by constantly booing at the sight of Israeli terrorists and when J.D. Vance and his wife appeared on the screen. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.